Hello, hello. So this is week 8 and it's a reflection video on my evaluation skills of the spine and the back. So obviously there are several questions. And so to start off, I'll start off with how I would rate myself during my evaluation process. So this is actually interesting because, when I think of lower extremity, I definitely know exactly what I'm good at, what I'm not, and why. The upper extremity, it's like the opposite. I know exactly what I'm bad at. I think that's common. I think the upper extremity is always a little bit more complicated. But the back, the spine and the back are a little trickier for me in that I kind of have mixed feelings about how I do in my evaluation process, as well as just how I feel about it. So overall, if I were to rate myself, say we're going to do it a scale out of 10, just like we would asking a patient, I would say that maybe I would be a solid 6 out of 10. I don't know if that's like putting myself down or maybe that's actually a good score. Because like I said, I have mixed feelings about it and I can explain as we go. But I would say, yeah, 6 out of 10. I feel like that's a solid number for me. Good enough room to improve on for the rest of my life, but not too cocky. So, starting that off with a little explanation, I would, talk about my strengths in the area. So, I guess if, I were to really think about my areas that I am most confident on when I evaluate the back or the spine, it is my capabilities of taking a good history and really getting a feel for the possible injury. And this is so. Yeah, taking a history is not, it's not that crazy of a cool strength or whatever. But I can say that maybe I am not always as thorough in my lower upper extremity evaluations. But I think what drives me to be more thorough in the back and the spine is my fear of the spine, which is a weakness. So yeah, my fear, I think that, maybe I'm not the only one either. Everyone, I think, not everyone, but a lot of people, I think, get hesitant when it comes to evaluating the spine. And I think for me, that's due to, you see spine injuries all the time in sports, especially professional sports. It's always a big deal. It's always the first thing that, you look for, or you try to rule out, one of the first things that you try to rule out, and it's scary, and don't want to touch the spine. There's too many intricate things coming in and out of the spine, and if I make them move in a certain direction, or do a certain strength test, or do a certain soft tissue test, I don't want to make any situation worse, because everyone's like, once you have a back problem, you always have a back problem. It's that. I think there's just a lot of emphasis on how sensitive the back can be. And so it kind of let that get into my head. So that drives me to be more thorough and crap load of more careful, which I should be in all of my evaluations. But, when you look at a sprained ankle that is obviously a sprained ankle, it looks like a sprained ankle, it acts like a sprained ankle, and then you get to the back and it's like it looks like this, but it acts like that. So I always think the back is a little trickier, which drives me to be a lot more careful when it comes to my history and ruling out things as much as possible before I become hands-on on a patient. And so that kind of pretty much already just told you my weakness. One of them is, I kind of let my fear of the spine kind of get in my head. So if I don't think I can figure it out, or, I only want to do a handful of special tests because I don't know what's going to happen, I don't want to hurt them even more, or whatever, then I let that fear kind of get in the way of the rest of my evaluation, you could say, the actual physical part of the evaluation. And I would say that also kind of goes into my other weakness, which is actually one of my general weaknesses, is organizing my special soft tissue tests. Sorry, habit of saying special tests for 4 years. Organizing all of those. Like I said, I kind of am really, really good with the history, and probably pretty good at when it comes to observation and palpation. But once I start getting past that and start having them do more of the physical part of the evaluation, then I kind of pause too long, and I have a hard time organizing my tests. I also have a hard time remembering all of my tests because head, neck, and spine class in undergrad comprised a lot of spine boarding. And I truly wish that we had a lot more emphasis as well on evaluation of general back injuries. Yeah, we had practicals, but spine boarding was emphasized so much in the class that that's all I ended up somehow taking away from it. And I didn't get a lot of experience either clinically with the back and the spine area. So organizing my soft tissue tests and, letting my fear of the spine or hurting that area that I consider just so much more sensitive than any other area, I kind of let that get into my head sometimes. I'm doing better now that I'm independently practicing, and I gotta kind of look like I have more confidence in myself too. So I'm doing a little bit better, but still a weakness, still always something I can work on as well. Especially the soft tissue tests. I can always work on that in every area that I evaluate. So the thing that I do in my evaluation process that is most useful to guide the rest of my clinical decision making is something that I already said, and that is taking the most thorough history I probably ever take of any other part of the body, and that does truly help. I do feel like it lets me cancel out a lot of unnecessary things that I may not have to do in the evaluation due to taking a good history, which is something I should do for the rest of the body as well. It's always learning. And lastly, the area that I would like to improve on the most is actually connecting the back and spine to the rest of the body, which may sound weird, but the whole body ends up being a chain. Everything is connected. And oftentimes because we learned of head, neck, and spine separately, it was a whole separate class, I've tended to always think of it as a separate entity, like this is the section and that's it, and this is where I look when I do my evaluation, but yet I don't do that for anything else. I always look up or down the chain for lower upper extremity injury, or sometimes depending on the situation. So I need to get out of that mindset of the back is the back, neck to back, that's just one section and that's the way it is. And I've been doing better at that, but still something that I could greatly improve on is remembering that things are connected, which can also lead to further discovery of an injury that I may not have connected to what was considered the injured area in the first place. Connecting everything, which is also, I think, a little bit of this class to an extent, and it's helping me kind of connect things as well. But I'm excited to learn more about the spine, reading all about the Mackenzie flexion, which I've already learned about, but always need to know more about. I'm also excited about that too. So hopefully I didn't drone on too much, but got my point across. So thank you.